Right, today we're going to reflect on SD 46.13 Bandhana Karaka Sutta, the discourse on the strife bringer. Bandhana Karaka, strife bringer, or literally you can translate this as troublemaker. Karaka means maker. Bandhana means trouble, strife. And this sutta is a very short one. It's about only 13 lines in translation, but it's a very important reminder given to us from the time of the Buddha himself. From the Buddha himself, perhaps. In this sutta, reference is A5.212. It is from the Book of 5, sutta number 212. So obviously here there are 5 important items, 5 key teachings. The theme here is social strife hinders spiritual development. Today we have a lot of information about religion, what's going on around us in today's Straits Times. For example, today is the 8th of March 2016. There is a full-page article on an attempt in a local temple in Singapore, when one of the trustees had called a special general meeting to oust the abbot who has been breaking a lot of rules, but somehow he failed to get the votes. In other words, this young priest has got quite a lot of admirers and supporters, but the fact that he has been breaking the Vinaya rules are quite obvious, and by his own statement he sort of either consciously or unconsciously admit to those aberrations. So he's going to be taken to court. So we see this kind of situation going on here in Singapore almost every year. One top monk getting into very serious trouble, and all these monks have a lot to do with money, a lot of money. And of course we hear of here and there also there's trouble in Thailand now. For example, we have some of the monks becoming very violent with the police in Bangkok over this issue of who should be Sangharaja. And not too long ago we have a monk, and even in Myanmar, who took a very firm, very violent stand against the Muslims in Myanmar. And in Sri Lanka too, we have decades of monks inciting racial hatred against the Tamils and so on. So we find this kind of troubling situation where the monastics caused, in a sense, the cause or other conditions for the problems. Now, I'm not making a political statement here. Rather, we're looking at this from a spiritual point of view. My interest is always, what does the sutta say about this? What does the Buddha say about this in the suttas? What can we do about this? What should we do about this sort of thing? Or what we should not do about this sort of thing? So the suttas tell us all these things. I mean, obviously, those monks who get into this kind of trouble are not really practicing the Dharma. And they may give good talks, and they're usually very good talkers, and that's how they win people over. But they are what the suttas call Moga Purisa, empty persons. They are really hollow inside. There's no spirituality there. And so here the problem is how to touch their hearts, how to inspire them to get them back into the Dhamma Vinaya, to really practice. Obviously they did not become monks and straight away become bad monks and nuns. Something must have happened along the way. So that sometimes it's very difficult to find out what's going on here. We say that it's the culture of this kind of monasticism, if you like. Frankly, I think one important problem here is because this kind of Buddhism is based on ethnicity, on race, on culture of money, on the business model. It's one of the big problems that we have this kind of situation. And many of these young, intelligent people who fail in other ways feel that by becoming a monk, they could attract funds, get support, go for further studies, get degrees and many degrees, and then come back and run a temple, or just people respect you because you're a title, and this is a very common thing in Singapore and Malaysia. So because of this kind of importance of externality and status, it attracts this kind of problem, and this is a serious issue right now. Although it was more serious before, if you like, but it's taken a new kind of level in our times, because people are becoming more sophisticated today. We look up to so much towards success, how we see success, and we like the monk to modernize, whatever that means, we do not know. So in other words, we do not really know the suttas, we don't know the Vinaya, and we already feel like changing the Buddha's teaching. That's a very, very dangerous, destructive attitude. We should find out what are we changing. Of course, to cut this long story short, we can say that what we should be changing is ourselves, of course, not the suttas, not the Dharma. I mean, if you have a computer screen and it's a little far away and it's not clear, you don't have to get a bigger screen. You draw the screen nearer to you, or you maybe increase the percentage of the words of the screen. In other words, we should approach the Dharma, look closer into the Dharma before we think of changing things. Now the point is this: if we get very involved with all this worldly strife, it becomes very costly for us. In this sutta, the Buddha speaks of 5 things that we lose or we are unable to do if we cause strife, if we bring strife into the Buddha's teaching, into the Buddhist community, into the world. We try to do, especially as monks and nuns, to do something different from what the monks and nuns of the Buddha's time have done. We will find we have these 5 problems or disadvantages. Let's look at the sutta. It's on page 114. The discourse on the strife bringer, A5212, originating in Savatthi. Bhikshus, a monk who is a source of strife, a source of quarrels, a source of disputes, a source of legal or ecclesiastical cases for the Sangha, can expect 5 disadvantages. So here we're talking about someone who habitually creates bad karma, if you like, who has a bad attitude. What are the 5? What are the 5 disadvantages such a person faces? Number 1, he does not attain what has not been attained. And the Pali word for this is anadigatang na digachati. He does not attain what has not been attained. What is this to be attained here? We can look at this from the threefold training, the 3 trainings, if you like. The simplest way is that it's the formula of the threefold training of the Eightfold Path. The first training, of course, is the training in moral virtue, moral conduct, restraint of body and speech in preparation for meditation. Definitely such a monk, such a person, it can be a layman too, would not be able to attain the level of restraint and renunciation of negative actions and speech, so that his precepts, his moral virtue is accomplished. He will not attain that. And if one is unable to attain the level of peace of body and speech, this person will not be able to meditate. He might be able to sit and show that he's sitting quietly, which is not difficult, but his mind is still in turmoil and trouble. He might be very emotional even. And so here, in other words, we can talk of Zen and Dzogchen and all kinds of meditation, but if you do not keep the precepts, that meditation is not really efficacious. It's not really meditation anyway. So there's no accomplishment in mental training, in mental calm or mental peace. And without moral virtue, without mental training, mental cultivation, there'll be no insight wisdom, which result from these two. The wisdom that this kind of monk or nun of person would have would be a worldly kind of learning, maybe from the academic courses he has done. He knows those things better than the suttas. So he's not accomplished in the Dhamma at all. He's just wearing a robe and a kind of a skinny head, if you like, but he's not a monk. This is the irony of it all. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, even if a layman were nicely dressed and going around in a nice vehicle, but if he practices the Dharma, he is indeed a monk, a holy man. So it's our practice that makes us a spiritual person, not the way we dress, the way we look, the titles we bear, and the qualifications we have. This is something we've totally forgotten, and this is really scary if you think about it. So we've got to get back to the suttas and to really know what the sutta is telling us, to remind us to get back on track. We've gone way away from the safety of the main road. Number two, second disadvantage which this strife bringer faces, he falls away from what he has attained. And this is very interesting. The Pali says, adhikatam parihayati. Parihayati can also mean is destroyed, is exhausted, is gone. What he has gained is gone. And not literally gone in the sense that you can't get it anymore, but he's just totally out of touch with this. Most of this kind of monks, when they first become monks, and it's always a wonderful moment when the person first becomes a monk, the moments leading up to the time, the idea of renunciation, those are beautiful moments. And those are the times when such a person, very wholesome, beautiful ideas on what he wants to do. But after that, he gets lost. And so he forgets all these wonderful good things. In that sense, he's lost all that he has attained. Even jhanas. People can attain deep jhanas like Devadatta, according to the story in the Theravada, was even endowed with psychic powers because of his jhana. But then in due course, because of his habitual unwholesome thoughts, he lost those powers for the simple reason that he was unable to go into deep meditation. With such hatred and anger, it's very difficult to meditate. So it's obvious with such monks who are able to talk their way out of situation, tell brazen lies, and kind of taken the wrong idea of the teaching, will never be able to really meditate. So he falls away from what he has attained. The sad thing here is, of course, there are all these foolish people who would still support this person because he's a monk, because he's wearing a robe, because he has a shaven head, because he's ordained. This is a sort of Sakkaya Ditthi, identifying spirituality with the looks, for example. It's wrong. There are always such people who would support the wrong ones. And yet, those who are wise will know, say, oh, this is not the way. But the problem is the wise also must speak out, must gather together and make things right. If you have the silent majority as those who are good, and the active majority, those who are bad and who support the bad, then of course the bad will predominate. Just like there's another sutta which says, if there's no king in the country, then the robbers will be rampant. The robbers are rampant in Buddhism today, in our culture today, in our society today. We've got to do something about this. By going back to the sutta, by strengthening ourselves with the sutta, inspiring others with the true teachings, that's the best and brightest light we can shine in these dark moments. Number 3, the third advantage that this kind of person who's a trouble bringer will face. His bad reputation is spread about. So in the case of this monk who got himself into trouble in Singapore, we have these people who are really upset with him, even setting up a website. They feel responsible to inform others that something's wrong here. Do not support this situation. They see the urgency of the situation. They want the good Dharma. Such people are getting less and less today. It takes a lot of courage to be able to stand up to such a situation. Of course, there are many other issues. People will say, they too have their own agenda and so on. That may well be, but the point is, here's a chance to set things right. At least to speak out that something is wrong here, and to try to right as much wrong as we can, rather than just be silent and say, it's karma. That's fatalistic. Sadly, I think most Buddhists today tend to be fatalistic. So it's just karma, and then we just forget about it. And if someone is popular, we say, this person's got good karma. So we use karma as currency. We're no more seeing karma as something that is very intimately ours, something that we habitually do that becomes us, and which we deal with ourselves, so that we understand ourselves better and we rise up from this ding-dong battle with karma, good and bad of karma, to find peace of mind through our mental training. Number 4, this is a bit more serious one in here. For such a bad person, he dies confused. I've heard from a number of people very close to some of these well-known monks, older monks especially, and there was one monk who told me that his teacher, when he died very troubled, in a very frightening way. So these are things they don't tell us, but we can almost know that these things happen to this kind of people whose minds are so negative. They will not die happily, because their daily life, their habitual life, is that of lying and doing wrong things, going against the Dhamma Vinaya despite wearing the robe. Then that is wrong. And the death of such a person will be in confusion. And that's not all. Number 5, with the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in a plane of misery, a bad destination, a lower realm, hell. Kaya sabeda paramarana apayang dugating vinipatang nirayang upapajati. Of course, modernists will say, how do we know all this? We do not know whether people will be reborn or not. We might not even believe in rebirth. But that's another matter. We don't have to wait to the next life to see these people suffering. We're in this life. They are suffering, because if they are not suffering, they would not be doing these things. If people are really happy, they would not do bad things. So this is where we have to remind ourselves that when we wear the robe, the karmic consequences is much stronger than if we don't. Someone who wears the robes and violates the spirituality of the robe, according to Buddha Gosha, it's like someone riding an elephant, or to fall, is going to hurt himself, even kill himself. But if we are laymen and we're not sure of the Dharma and we have wrong views, it's not that bad. It's like falling over a donkey, so to speak. It doesn't mean as lay people we should be making more wrong, showing more wrong views. Rather, the consequence of a layman speaking frivolously, giving wrong views like on Facebook, is not that bad. But of course, if it's done regularly, of course you won't grow, and you're going to kind of get into quarrels and so on, just collecting likes and loves, and you find you get stunted on the Facebook level. You don't grow, you see, and every time you have to run back to Facebook and say, how many likes do I get today, and you find you won't be happy, really. So we got to grow beyond that. We got to grow out of this eggshell called the Facebook, for example. So, and then you see There's this very interesting phenomena. You see animals in temples, cats, dogs that seem to behave almost humanly. There's even once someone showed me a picture of a cat that knows how to put its palms together. So I was laughing. I said, wow, this cat must have been a monk before or a nun before. So, I mean, we forget the dark side of this reality, you know. If this cat knows how to put its palms together, what was this cat before? He must be a monk or a nun to be born in the comfort and safety of a temple. So that's what happens, and this is not mere talk. There are suttas which talk about this. The Janusoni Sutta, where the Buddha says, if a monk, if someone does good, the good will come back to him, the good karma will come back to him, especially charity, giving. But he doesn't keep the precepts, so be reborn as an animal in a suffering state. So here probably you have a case of someone who's done a lot of good stuff but did not keep the precepts, so is reborn as a temple cat or a temple dog, well taken care of, and this dog is very clever in the sense of knowing the times. I have a cat at home that knows the times of my daily routine. It comes to me to remind me to have my meals and to take a break, to go to sleep and so on. It's an amazing little tabby cat. It's such a beautiful cat. So I don't know, it must have been a nun before or something. So these are things we got to think very seriously about once we take up orders, when we take the path of renunciation. If we feel that we're not up to it, it's better that we resign and work as a full-time layman. That would be much better. We still benefit people, and we have the freedom that we need, which the robes of Sangha will not offer. So all I'm saying is, we're talking about quality in the Dharma. We have to keep up this quality in the Dharma. We should respect the Dharma. Then the Dharma will respect us, the Dharma will protect us. So the sutta ends with the Buddha saying, Bhikshus, a monk who is a source of strife, a source of quarrels, a source of disputes, a source of legal or ecclesiastical cases for the Sangha, can expect to have these 5 disadvantages. So please reflect on these things and share this with the Sangha members. And Sangha members should remind themselves of all these things, go back to the suttas, and bless us with your learning and awakening in this life itself. And now let us do a short reflection to close this study. While the Dhamma is with us, all we need is to open our eyes and open our hearts to the Dharma, and let its meaning arise in the stillness of our minds. The Dharma is still available with us. The Buddha's wisdom and the compassion of the great saints of the Buddha's time have preserved the teaching right down to our times. So let us tap the wisdom and the light of this Dhamma Vinaya, these wonderful liberating teachings. Reflecting in this way is wonderful good karma. But above such karma, may we be blessed with the courage and wisdom to at least aspire to stream winning in this life itself. In this moment of peace and with the blessings of the 3 jewels, let us send our loving kindness to all the beings here, and wish all those who have loved us and those that we love be well and happy. Those who have been kind to us and supporting us to be well and happy. And by the same token, by the goodness of the 3 jewels, may those whom the Dharma have not touched, may those who have difficulty with the Dharma to see the Dhamma in this life itself and be liberated. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.